Hello everyone. Okay, I'm going to make this video during the full moon, although the full moon is a little hidden tonight. But I want to answer a question that I know some people have. And the question is regarding predictions, intuitions, forecasting, and why is it that people who seem to be able to predict one thing are not able to predict another thing? And I'm going to give you an example. So, when Trump and Harris were running for president of the United States, one of my friends who is an intuitive did a live, and he was on a live, and they asked him if Trump was going to win the presidency, and he said no. And I did a live, and they asked me. Well, nobody really asked me, but I was hearing questions. Nobody was on my live responding, but I was listening to the universe and hearing the questions that were out there. And so I answered the question when it came up, and I said, I believe there is going to be a Trump like energy in the White House. And then there's these prophetess, Christian prophetess, and I have to say that because there's a group of them where they call themselves Christian prophetess, and they have the little, we used to call it the flower pot, the little white covering over the head and things, and they're prophesying on things. And they said, oh no, Trump's not going to be in office. And then there's these psychics and mediums and readers who were online, and they were calling Trump, based on whatever they were seeing, he who shall not be president. He who shall not be president. So they were saying, oh, he might win the election, but he won't get in the Oval Office. Just wait, he won't get in the Oval Office. So although Harris had lost the election, other people were waiting for something tragic to happen, like Trump was going to die, or they were going to overturn the election or something. Now, out of everyone who made their predictions, from the outside, what most of you would see is that I am the only one whose prediction was correct. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. My prediction was correct in the sense that, yes, there is a Trump-like energy in the office. However, if you look at what is going around with the conversations, people are saying he's a puppeteer. It is clear that the Trump that is in the office in 2025 is not the same Trump that is in the office back in 2016, right? And I say that because the Trump in 2016, there was no one sharing the stage with him. And right now, Elon Musk is obviously sharing the stage with him. He literally just gave an interview from the Oval Office with his kid in the Oval Office. So for a lot of people, they're saying that Trump is now a puppet, and they're now saying that he's not really the president. Elon Musk is the president. So in essence, to someone who is forecasting and seeing, they may see or hear Elon Musk as president in their vision, which they may not know exactly all of what that means. Or they may hear something or see something that's like, Trump's not president, and they might pick up on that as the reason that they're seeing that he's not going to be president. So people have different gifts, and people are at different levels with their gifts and different understanding of how their gift operates. So they may get a flash of something, and that flash of something is not the whole picture, right? So it just depends on who is reading as to how accurate that response to your question is going to be. This is why I tell people I call it the fivefold. I have the fivefold. I have 5 different levels of gifts, right? And because of my 5 different levels of gifts, I get insight on different frequencies. That doesn't mean that somebody else was wrong when they said something that didn't line up with what I said. That meant that they got a different frequency. And in essence, you could consider them right if you say that Trump really isn't the person in the White House running the country, right? So if you believe that, then you would say, well, they were right in this kind of way, which leads me to the other thing that whomever is right depends upon the interpretation, right? I never said Trump was going to win the presidency. I said there was going to be a Trump like energy in the White House. Now, you have some people who say, well, Trump didn't win the presidency. He rigged it. He this, he that, or whatever. Regardless of whether or not you think he won, the reality is that that energy is sitting in the White House. Okay. So I want to make sure people understand that, because I know in times of despair, a lot of people turn to others who they think know more than they do. And I say we all have different levels of gifts, and we all have the ability to tap into these gifts, but most people don't ever get there just in this lifetime. Fortunately, I'm at the last cycle, right, in my lifeline. So I have, and very thankfully, the way I was brought up, my gift has always been in use. Most people's gifts have been squashed. And just in the last 8 to 10 years, they've started reemerging, and people started using their gifts, and they're like, oh man, why? Kind of confused. So in that confusion, your predictions or your readings might have some confusion with it. Now, another thing is sometimes people go to a reader and intentionally give them false information, and the reader responds to the false information. And the first thing they want to say is, oh, that person's a false deity or whatever, or a false reader. Let me correct this. And I say deity because there's some people who do call themselves a particular deity. They've adopted the name of other deities and applied it to themselves and say that in this life they are that deity reincarnated. I don't do that. Just saying, so you guys can be aware. Now, I had a situation a couple years ago, and I like to get on these social media apps and just play, because I can read you just by your name. I can read you just by you writing. I can read you without just by somebody interacting with me like on the computer screen like this. The energy comes to me when people interact with me. Also, why I stay to myself. So I'm on one of them, and I did some kind of reading like that because it's on one of the nights. So it's like 3 a.m. where I'm in that kind of mood. And I did some kind of reading, and the person was like, wait a minute, you don't know me. How you know this about me? Blah, blah, blah. So someone else made a comment. Well, if you can read so good, tell me what happened to my sister. And because I hear from spirits as well in mediumship, I have different hearing things that happen, but I hear from spirits too. And I said something offhanded to the person, and the person was using a handle, a fake name. And they were like, you're not real. You don't know my sister. But I said what the sister said, right? What the sister said to me. And the person's like, you're not real. You don't know my sister. And I just laughed, and I went on, and I went and I was taking my shower. And then the sister came back, gave me her name. And I went back and typed, by the way, apparently your sister has a sense of humor. She told me to tell you this is her name, da, da, da. And the person then was like, wait a minute. How do you know my sister's name? How do you know this happened? How do you know she was killed? How do you know? How do you know? Spirits do have a sense of humor. If they had a sense of humor before they transition, they will still have a sense of humor when they transition. Totally different subject. So then, as I said to the person, the only reason I'm giving you this information is because you needed to know and have a sense of relief from your sister. I don't normally really interact with people who call me false anything. I just let it be what it is. But apparently your sister wanted you to know it was her, and she was still this joking person in this afterlife. Right? Now, that wasn't someone who came to me and was asking me a question or reading or whatever. That was just me playing on the phone. So I just said all of this to say that people have different levels of gifts, and they're at different points in their walk and different levels of understanding with their own gifts. And if that's the case, you have to have different levels of understanding with other people's gifts. I always say, write it down. Write it down, and if it comes to pass, then you know that was the person who was at a certain level where their gift was in alignment. And if you write it down and it never happens, then you're like, okay, because people do say things, as I say, from their lower vibration that they just want you to hear. Okay. All right. Long winded, and hopefully you got something out of this. And you guys see what happens when you be out here in this heat and stuff. Anyway, you guys have a glorious day. Glorious evening, because it's now evening. This is the actual full moon. Tomorrow is the third hint of the full moon, because the full moon is technically over, but we still have a little bit of that energy. So take advantage of it. Pay attention. This is the time for you to focus on the things that you want to manifest. Remember, you can only manifest based off what is within you, right? Be well.